Good afternoon. I'm Audra Murfeld-Langston, Associate Professor of French, Chair of Arts, Languages, and Philosophy, and a past recipient of the Woman of the Year Award. Thank you for joining us for a tradition that began 23 years ago when we honored the first Woman of the Year. Over the past 2 decades, many remarkable women on our campus have received this award. I'm also delighted that we expanded our recognition 3 years ago with the addition of the Dr. Elizabeth Cummins Women's Advocate Award, named for the first woman to chair an academic department at Missouri S&T. Both awards recognize members of our university community for their contributions to strengthening diversity, inclusion, and the role of women on our campus. Before we continue, I'd like to share the names of past honorees, beginning with our Woman of the Year award winners. Diana Ahmed, Marisa Crow, Elizabeth Cummins, our first Woman of the Year, Kate Drown, Nuran Urkel, Shannon Fogg, Kimberly Henthorn, Jennifer Leopold, Dan Lynn, Susanna Long, Paula Lutz, Dee Hammerly Montgomery, Melanie Mormile, Susan Murray, Catherine Northcutt, Francisca Oboekwinobi, Catherine Riordan, Kathleen Shepard, Carol Ann Smith, and Christine Swenson. I would also like to salute the past recipients of the Dr. Elizabeth Cummins Women's Advocate Award, Mary Riedmeyer, Meg Brady, and Katie Shannon. Finally, I would like to thank the members of the Woman of the Year Committee for their service. Susanna Long, Audra Murfeld-Langston, Kathy Northcutt, Kathleen Shepard, Justin Pope, David Westenberg, and Jonathan Kimball. Now, to continue our program, I'm pleased to introduce Interim Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs, Steve Roberts.
Thank you, Dr. Murfeld-Langston. And thank you all for joining our celebration. The awards that we're presenting today recognize the exceptional leadership and service and teaching that make our campus a place where the many talents here can thrive in an environment for opportunity for all. Since the first Woman of the Year award was presented 23 years ago to Dr. Cummins, our university has changed a great deal. We're a more diverse campus, and we continue to evolve and make progress in our diversity. Today, female students comprise almost a quarter of our student body. This is quite a change from the old days of MSM and UMR. We've also seen a shift in our faculty demographics. In 2000, only 10% of our tenured and tenure-track faculty were female. And 20 years later, this representation has grown to 25%. These gains are a welcome sign of progress, although there is still much work to be done. Today's celebration spotlights the exemplary leaders who challenge us to be better and to dig deeper and to embrace the strength in our diversity. I'm pleased now to introduce the two faculty members we honored last year, our 2019 Woman of the Year, Dr. Kathleen Shepard, and our 2019 Dr. Elizabeth Cummins Women's Advocate Award, Dr. Katie Shannon.
Thank you. First, I would like to acknowledge that this event is taking place in the occupied territory of the Kickapoo, Osage, and Sioux nations. There have always been Indigenous people in the spaces we call home, and there always will be. So recently, I was in a meeting. We've all been there before. It was on Zoom with a lot of attendees, and it was hard to tell whose turn it was to speak. There was a question directed at me specifically, and yet I was unable to answer. No fewer than 5 men immediately spoke up in my stead. All of them were speaking over each other, and I couldn't respond. Finally, I had to shout over the other shouting, and I said, "Gentlemen, I'm speaking. This question was for me." And I answered the question. It happened one more time in this meeting with the same result. After the meeting, I got emails from a number of colleagues who were supportive of me claiming my time in my meeting. Others were not so supportive. The not supportive emails informed me that I needed to behave in a more professional manner and proceeded in detail to give me advice on how to be nice while still being firm. I tell this story not because it was a surprising situation. I'm a historian of science who studies women in the professions. I study women just like me and many of my colleagues on campus. So I tell this story because the situation is, in fact, de rigueur for many women and underrepresented groups on this campus, and in many professional, personal, and political situations. Not only do we have to claim our time and space in a situation that is not always welcoming, we are told we must do so in a way that is pleasing to others. As a woman and a historian, I know I'm not alone in this. In the centuries since women have moved into spaces such as educational institutions, corporate offices, and laboratories, we've had to fight to remain in those places, as well as to have our voices heard in environments where we are seen as invading that space. In fact, my colleague Larry Gragg's new history of this campus, Forged in Gold, there's a whole chapter on women and people of color invading campus and the other students and faculty members' reactions to them. In that section, he showed that women and people of color here at S&T have had to deal with a lot of resistance to our presence and resistance to hearing our voices. Relatedly, in a recent Huffington Post article, Soraya Shamali writes, quote, "As adults, women's speech is granted less authority and credibility. We aren't thought of as able critics or as funny as men. Men speak more often, and longer than women in mixed groups, including classrooms, boardrooms, legislative bodies, expert media commentary, and religious institutions. Indeed," she continues, "in male-dominated problem-solving groups, including boards, committees, and legislatures, men speak 75% more than women, with negative effects on the decisions reached. That's why, as she summed up, having a seat at the table is not the same as having a voice." Shamali then calls on women to learn 10 words. Stop interrupting me, I just said that, and no explanation needed. These are powerful words. As a previous Woman of the Year, I still need to learn these words. As a member of one of the underrepresented groups on this campus and in the professional world in general, I need to remember that my voice still matters. Maybe it matters now more than ever. Women, Black and Indigenous people of color, the disabled, and members of the LGBTQ+ community. We belong in all places where decisions are being made, especially when it specifically concerns us. We may be allowed in these spaces, but that doesn't mean we're welcomed. If we are welcomed by some, maybe most, it does not necessarily mean we are valued. Throughout history and today, we have seen what happens when lives and voices are undervalued. There is conflict, which can and does often lead to violence. Here in the US, we've seen it over and over again. Suffragettes asking Wilson for the vote, only to be assaulted, then jailed and assaulted again. John Lewis trying to walk peacefully across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, only to be beaten and attacked by police and police dogs. Most recently, people like George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, Philando Castile, Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, and many others. Their voices were ignored. Sometimes we wonder what we can do here in our corner of the world. I think it starts small, with everyday recognition of the humanity of other voices. If we start here, if we model what it means to value others, this will spread. So I would like to call on my colleagues and all those who are colleagues of women and other underrepresented groups to also learn a few words. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please continue. And maybe the most important, just not saying anything at all. Thank you.
I'm so honored to be the 2019 Dr. Elizabeth Cummins Women's Advocate Awardee. A big part of being an advocate is mentorship, and I would like to take my time today to thank my mentors who have helped me achieve success. My journey as a biologist and a scientist really began in the lab of Dr. Patricia Pekila at UNC. I was interested in genetics, and Dr. Pekila studied meiotic mutant mushrooms. Dr. Pekila was a big advocate of undergraduate research, and it was my experience in her lab that convinced me that science was what I wanted to pursue. I got to do cool things like look at chromosomes using an electron microscope. Dr. Pekila was patient when I made mistakes and trusted me to handle multiple research projects. She encouraged me to apply to PhD programs. When it was time for my first interview, I remember asking her what I should wear. She replied that it didn't really matter since scientists weren't really known for their fashion sense, which you know is true. In graduate school, I was lucky to find another excellent mentor, Dr. Rong Lee. Rong was a young assistant professor, hardworking and ambitious. It was in her lab that I discovered my love of cell biology, looking at living cells under the microscope. Rung had her first child while I was a graduate student in her lab, and she modeled balancing family and a demanding job. Rung is fearless, and as graduate students, we marveled at stories of her standing up for herself against more established senior faculty members. Rung encouraged her students to find a career that was the right fit, and her students went to biotech companies, medical school, and high schools to become teachers. I went on to do a postdoc with Dr. Ted Salmon. Ted is the kind of person that you might think of when you think of an absent-minded professor. Wild white hair, always forgetting appointments, and wearing the same rumpled clothes every day. Ted is truly a genius and willing to talk for hours about research or teaching. He was passionate about both. Ted mentored many women, including myself, who went on to careers in industry and education. At S&T, I have been fortunate to have many friends and mentors, including Dr. Melanie Mormile, who has a more senior member of my department provided advice and guidance for me as an assistant professor. I'm so grateful for the wonderful mentors and advocates who've helped me in my career. My goal is to continue to train, mentor, educate, and advocate for all students, especially women, to achieve their goals. I know this year's winner of the Dr. Elizabeth Cummins Women's Advocate Award will do the same.
Thank you, Dr. Shepard and Dr. Shannon, for your inspiring words. Before I announce our 2020 honorees, I'd like to pause and recognize Cindy Tang for her financial support of these awards. Cindy graduated from Missouri S&T in 1985 with a bachelor's degree in economics and went on to found a successful software engineering company, Insight Industries. She received an honorary doctorate from S&T in 1998 and was honored among our 2011 alumni of influence. She is a Missouri S&T trustee emerita and a member of the Academy of Computer Science and the Academy of Electrical and Computer Engineering. Thank you, Cindy, for making these awards possible. We'll begin with the Dr. Elizabeth Cummins Women Advocate Award. Women's Advocate Award. Our honoree is a teaching scholar who has inspired the next generation of leaders in psychology and many other fields since she arrived on our campus in 1990. Over the past 2 decades as a faculty member in the Department of Psychological Science, she has advanced from adjunct instructor to lecturer to full teaching professor. She has also advised and mentored many students as they chartered their path to graduation and beyond. As one of our honorees' former students wrote, she is unequaled in her support of students seeking to find their passion and pursue their dreams. I wouldn't be where I am today without her, and I know there are countless other S&T students who feel the same way. A faculty colleague echoed these sentiments. She is an advocate for all students, and especially so for women. My office is right next to hers, and so I get to see and hear the exceptional amount of time that she devotes to speaking with the students. Some are her advisees, but others aren't, and this doesn't change her relationship with them. Although she will happily provide advice about which classes to take, her role goes far beyond that. Our honoree has received S&T's Outstanding Teaching Award 14 times, a tremendous testament to her ability to connect with the students. Her office is a home away from home for many seeking a sounding board. She has made a difference with her approachability and wise counsel, but also with her dedication to the rigors of her academic field. Our honoree earned her bachelor's degree in psychology from Creighton University, her master's degree in developmental psychology from the University of Nebraska, and her doctorate of education in educational leadership and policy analysis from the University of Missouri-Columbia. From search committee and retention committees to advising Psi Chi Honor Society for the past 13 years, her impact is evident across campus, but most especially in the lives of the students. To conclude with the words of another former student, at the university where the majority of the students and faculty are male, it can be challenging to find where you belong on this campus as a woman. I have spent almost 3 years of my time at S&T unsure of what I wanted to do in life and unsure of my career path because of this. I was lucky enough to have her respond to my email about switching majors, and she has since been the best advocate, mentor, and professor to me. It is my privilege to announce the recipient of the Dr. Elizabeth Cummins Women's Advocate Award, Dr. Merilee Krueger.
I was tricked, Susan. Wow. This is such an honor. Oh my gosh.
We are here in the conference room at the Humanities Social Science Building, and sorry, our video doesn't seem to be working. Maybe somebody can figure that out. But we have the honor of having Dr. Liz Cummins with us and the latest winner of the award, Professor Merilee Krueger.
Hello.
And she could probably say something if she wanted to.
She could if she wanted to. Thank you so much. This is a complete surprise. I'm incredibly humbled and honored to receive such an award. My goal when I do this job is to be the very best for all my students, and to be recognized that I advocate for them is probably the greatest honor I could receive. So, oops, start my video. So thank you all so much. I'm beyond grateful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So now you can see her, now that she's
Here
done
she is.
talking, and she's facing the wrong way. And Liz, do you want to say?
It's always a pleasure to meet the new to me faculty who win this award. And I'm always very, very impressed by their accomplishments and look forward to their continued service to S&T.
So we'll send it back over to Havener.
Truly a electronic.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We are an institute of technology, and as such, from time to time, we run into glitches with technology. So I extend my personal congratulations to Dr. Krueger on a well-deserved award. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our 2020 Woman of the Year. Our honoree also comes from the Department of Psychological Science, where she appears to single-handedly have inspired a new generation of clinical psychologists and scholars. She joined our faculty 10 years ago as an assistant professor of psychology after serving as a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology, biology, and chemistry from Drury University, a master's degree in clinical psychology from Missouri State University, and a PhD in clinical psychology from Auburn University. She also held a postdoctoral fellowship at Yale University School of Medicine. Over the past decade, our honoree has encouraged students and local citizens to develop a greater understanding of substance use and correlating behaviors, abnormal psychology, and mental illness. Many of her students go on to careers helping to shed light on the complexities of these illnesses. As a colleague wrote, the majority of undergraduate psychology majors at S&T are female. She is a dedicated mentor to these students. Many of our psychology students aspire to attend graduate school, which is very highly selective in the field. Every year, a student is accepted into his or her dream graduate program based on the experience gained with her. A former student, a ceramic engineering major, shared these words. There are many things I took away from her courses, but I will remember for my lifetime the mindset shift. I left after a semester with her more open-minded and with greater perspective about how I view and treat those around me. Skills I feel have transformed who I am today. Our honoree has served on more committees than I can count on and has received a number of faculty teaching awards and outstanding teaching awards. This past spring, she received the College of Arts, Sciences, and Businesses inaugural Student Impact Award, which recognized her transformative impact on the lives of alumni. Beyond our campus, she is a community leader who puts her scholarly training into action. She serves on the board of Russell House, which provides crisis services to families throughout Phelps County, and as a volunteer for the Hope Alliance Friday Food Backpack program, which serves Rolla students facing food insecurity. There is so much more I could say, but I'll conclude with the words of our honoree's department chair. Her intellectual curiosity and fearlessness in dealing with difficult social issues propel her into the role of mentor for many students, but especially for women on campus. Her efforts through her teaching, her research, her collaborations, her service, and perhaps most importantly, her mentorship have added tremendous, albeit intangible value to our university and to a world that is greatly in need of empathy and compassion. Please join me in congratulating our 2020 Woman of the Year, Dr. Amber Henslee.
Microphone's on if you'd like to say something.
I am speechless and very honored This is, I'm very humbled, and this really means a lot. So, thank you.
Thank you all for joining us to honor two remarkable faculty members and the many women of our university, our university has recognized over the past 23 years. Our awards ceremony will be available on the S&T YouTube channel for anyone who missed it or would like to watch it again. Thank you again and have a good afternoon.